My beloved child, stop scrolling for just a moment. Do not rush past these words, because what you are about to hear was not placed in front of you by accident. There is something moving quietly behind the scenes of your life, something your eyes cannot see yet, something your heart has been sensing without knowing how to explain it. And if you have recently felt that strange pull in your spirit, that sudden longing, that unexplained feeling that someone is thinking about you even when no one is speaking your name, then listen carefully, my beloved child. Heaven is asking you to become still, not because there is nothing happening, but because there is more happening than you realize. There is a person whose heart has been moving closer to yours in silence. Someone who has not told you everything. Someone who has carried thoughts of you through ordinary days, through quiet nights, through moments when they tried to convince themselves that they had moved on. They may have smiled in front of others. They may have continued with their responsibilities. They may have acted as though everything was normal, but something inside them has not been normal. Something has been calling them back toward you, and before you become excited, before you begin searching for signs everywhere, before you start trying to guess a name or a face, hear this part carefully. What is coming toward you is not meant to be announced yet. There is a reason this has been kept quiet. There is a reason certain doors have remained closed. There is a reason some conversations never happened when you wanted them to happen. You thought the silence meant rejection. You thought the distance meant the connection was fading. You wondered why the person you cared about could remain so quiet when your heart was screaming for an answer. But what if the silence was not the ending? What if the silence was the preparation? Pause here. My child, because this is where the story changes. There are moments when heaven allows two paths to separate, not because the connection has no meaning, but because both people must become different versions of themselves before they can recognize what they are being given. Sometimes the heart wants an immediate reunion while the soul needs a season of transformation. Sometimes you are asking, why hasn't it happened yet? While heaven is quietly preparing the circumstances that would make it possible, and there is something about this particular connection that you have not understood. You were not the only one affected. You were not the only one lying awake wondering. You were not the only one replaying old conversations. You were not the only one asking what could have been different. There were nights when this person remembered you more intensely than you would ever imagine. There were moments when something reminded them of you, and for a few seconds they felt the weight of everything they had tried to place behind them. A song. A familiar place. A phrase someone happened to say. A date they did not expect to remember, and suddenly, there you were again, not physically, but emotionally. As though some invisible thread had been pulled tight. They may not understand why, they may even resist it, but resistance does not erase what the heart has recognized. And now, my beloved child, something is changing. The distance that once felt permanent is beginning to feel temporary. The silence that once seemed final is beginning to break. The person you have been wondering about is approaching a decision, but there is one thing you must understand before I reveal what makes this moment different. They are not coming toward you simply because they are lonely. They are not coming because they need someone to fill an empty space. They are not being pushed toward you because they suddenly have nothing else to do. Something deeper has been happening inside them. They have been confronting themselves. They have been remembering what they lost. They have been comparing what looks good from the outside with what feels real when no one is watching. And somewhere in that private battle, your memory has become impossible to ignore. You may have believed that they forgot. They did not. You may have believed they stopped caring. That is not the whole story. You may have looked at their silence and assumed that silence meant peace. Sometimes silence is where the loudest battles happen. There is a secret they have been carrying, my child, and that secret is not necessarily something dramatic or frightening. It is something much more intimate. They have been thinking about seeing you, not merely speaking to you through a message, not merely checking your profile, not merely wondering how you are, seeing you, standing in front of you, looking into your eyes and discovering what happens when the distance disappears. And this is why I need you to listen carefully. They do not want everyone to know. There is a reason they have not told the people around them. There is a reason they may be making quiet plans instead of public declarations. There is a reason this movement is happening beneath the surface. They want to see you without the noise of other people's opinions surrounding the moment. They want to know what happens when it is only you and them, no audience, no explanations, no pressure, no one telling them what they should feel, just the truth of the moment. And that is why you may experience something unexpected, a message, a sudden appearance, a familiar name. An invitation that seems ordinary but carries a deeper meaning, a coincidence that feels almost too precise, a person you thought would never return suddenly appearing somewhere you did not expect. Do not force the meaning, do not chase the sign. Do not manipulate circumstances to make a prophecy happen. Simply remain awake, because the most important moments often arrive disguised as ordinary ones. You have been asking heaven for a clear answer, but perhaps you have been expecting the answer to arrive with thunder. Instead, it may arrive quietly. It may arrive with a knock. It may arrive with a simple sentence. It may arrive through someone saying, "Can I see you?" And when that moment comes, your heart may recognize it before your mind does. You may suddenly feel that strange stillness inside you, that feeling where time seems to slow for a second, that feeling where you cannot decide whether to smile or cry. Because there are some reunions that begin long before two people physically stand in the same room. They begin in the heart. They begin when one person finally admits to themselves what they have been denying. And my beloved child, that admission is getting closer. But there is another layer to this. The person coming toward you is not the same person who walked away. Something has humbled them. Something has changed their understanding of love. Perhaps life showed them that attention is not the same as connection. Perhaps they discovered that being surrounded by people does not mean being understood. Perhaps they received everything they thought they wanted and still felt an emptiness they could not explain. Perhaps they realized that some connections cannot be replaced simply because you meet new people, and somewhere along that journey, they began remembering the way they felt around you, not just your appearance, not just your words, but the feeling of being seen, the feeling of being understood without having to explain every wound, the feeling of being able to sit in silence without the silence becoming uncomfortable. Those things become precious when they disappear. And now, my child, they are beginning to understand their value. But there is something else you must know: you have changed too. You are not waiting in the same way you used to wait. You have been learning how to survive without the answer. You have been learning how to stop begging for clarity. You have been learning that your worth does not increase when someone chooses you and does not decrease when someone walks away. You have cried over things you never told anyone. You have had moments when you questioned whether your heart had imagined the entire connection. You wondered if you had been foolish for believing there was something deeper. But heaven saw those nights. Heaven saw the moments. Down privately, heaven saw the strength it took to release what you could not control. And perhaps that is why the timing is changing now, because you are becoming capable of receiving what you once would have chased. There is a difference. When you chase something, you surrender your peace to its arrival. When you are prepared for something, you can receive it without losing yourself. That is the transformation happening inside you, and there is one instruction I need you to hold close: do not expose the secret before the moment arrives. Do not tell everyone what you suspect. Do not announce that someone is coming back. Do not build an entire future around a possibility. Protect your peace. Protect your heart. Let action speak louder than anticipation. Because there are certain things that become fragile when they are placed under too many eyes. This connection needs space. It needs privacy. It needs the freedom to unfold without the weight of everyone's expectations. And this is why the title found you the way it did. Your soulmate is coming to see you, but it must stay a secret. Not because you should live in fear, not because love should be hidden forever, but because the first moment of reconnection may need to belong to the two people actually living it. There are conversations that cannot happen when 10 people are giving advice. There are emotions that cannot rise naturally when everyone is watching. There are truths that only come out when two hearts finally feel safe enough to speak. And that private moment may reveal more than months of messages ever could. You may finally understand why they disappeared. You may finally hear what they were too afraid to say. You may finally discover that the silence had a story behind it. But before that happens, something may test your patience. You may receive a small sign instead of the full answer. You may hear something that makes you wonder. You may notice their name somewhere unexpectedly. You may have a dream that stays with you after waking. You may suddenly feel an emotional wave for no obvious reason. You may even feel tempted to reach out first, and this is where your strength will be measured, not by whether you can make them come closer, but by whether you can remain centered while they decide to step forward themselves. Do not confuse movement with chasing. Do not confuse longing with destiny. Do not confuse coincidence with certainty. Let reality confirm what your emotions cannot prove. If they are truly coming, you will not need to destroy your peace trying to find them. If they truly want to see you, they will create a path. If they truly value what was lost, their actions will eventually reveal it. And when that moment arrives, you will know something has changed because you will not feel the same desperation you once felt. You will feel clarity, perhaps even a strange calm, as though some part of you has been waiting for this moment without demanding it. But listen carefully, because there is something I have not told you yet. The meeting may not happen in the way you imagine. You may expect a grand confession. You may expect them to arrive with perfect words. You may expect tears, apologies, and immediate certainty. But heaven rarely writes important moments according to the script people create in their minds. Sometimes the most powerful reunion begins with an ordinary sentence. Hey, how have you been? I was thinking about you. Can we talk? And behind those simple words may be an entire history that neither of you has forgotten. You might look at them and realize that the person standing in front of you has been fighting battles you never saw, and they might look at you and realize something that frightens them in the most beautiful way. They may realize that you are no longer waiting for them to validate your worth. You have become someone they must approach with sincerity, and that changes everything, because love cannot survive on memory alone. It must eventually become action, it must become courage, it must become honesty, and someone is approaching the point where they can no longer hide behind silence. There is a moment coming when they will have to choose between continuing to pretend that they feel nothing and finally facing what has remained unresolved. That choice is closer than you think. But there is another reason this message is reaching you now. You have been standing at the edge of one chapter without realizing that another chapter may already be opening. You thought the waiting season was punishment. It may have been preparation. You thought the delays were proof that nothing was happening. There may have been movement you could not see. You thought you had been forgotten. Perhaps someone was trying desperately to forget. And failing, again and again, because some people can walk away from a place, but they cannot easily walk away from the feeling they experienced there, and you became a feeling they could not simply replace. Still, my child, do not make this about possession. Your soulmate is not someone you own. A soul connection is not permission to ignore boundaries, reality, or free will. What is meant for you will not require you to lose yourself. The right connection will not demand that you become smaller. It will not require you to beg. It will not ask you to accept disrespect simply because you believe the connection is special. If this person returns, let them return with accountability. Let them show you who they have become. Let them earn access to the version of you that survived their absence. Do not punish them for changing, but do not reward them for remaining unchanged either. You have grown. They must meet you where you are, and now, something extraordinary is beginning to form around this hidden meeting. There may be someone else who knows more than you realize, someone who has heard your name mentioned, someone who has noticed a change in this person's behavior, someone who may accidentally become the bridge between two worlds without realizing the significance of what they are doing. That is why you must be observant but not obsessive. You do not need to investigate every detail. You do not need to decode every coincidence. You do not need to interrogate the universe. Let the pieces come to you, because when something is truly unfolding, you will not have to force every piece into place. And there is one final thing I want you to understand before this part ends. The secret is not the destination. The secret is the beginning. The real revelation will come when you discover why this person feels the need to see you privately in the first place. What are they afraid of? What have they been hiding? What happened that changed their heart? Why now? Why after all this time? And most importantly, what are they planning to say when they finally stand in front of you? My beloved child, there is a reason your spirit has felt restless lately. There is a reason old memories have been resurfacing. There is a reason your heart has been asking questions you thought you had already buried. Something is moving, quietly, carefully, almost invisibly, and the person you thought was far away may be much closer to your life than you realize. But do not reveal that you know. Do not chase the moment. Do not interrupt what is still being prepared. Let the secret remain a secret, because there is a moment coming when you may hear something that changes the way you remember the entire past, and when you finally meet their eyes, you may realize that the person you were waiting for was not simply traveling toward you from somewhere else. They were traveling through their own fear, through their own regret, through their own confusion, through everything that kept them from saying what their heart already knew. And now they are reaching the final distance. One step, one decision, one message, one unexpected appearance, one moment that neither of you can take back. But there is something hidden inside that meeting that you have not been shown yet, something they have been carrying, something they have not told anyone, something that could explain why they suddenly decided they must see you in person instead of simply sending another message. And when you discover what that secret is, you may finally understand why heaven allowed the silence to last this long, because the next part of this story is not about whether they are coming, it is about what they are coming to tell you. And my beloved child, that is the part you have been waiting for without even knowing it. My beloved child, do not rush past this moment. There are some truths that cannot be understood until the heart is ready to hear them. You have been wondering what this person could possibly want to say to you after everything that has happened. You have imagined apologies. You have imagined explanations. You have imagined them standing before you with tears in their eyes, finally admitting everything they kept hidden. But the truth may be more unexpected than any scenario your mind has created, because they are not only coming to talk about the past, they are coming because something about their future has begun to frighten them. They have reached a place where continuing without addressing what happened between you feels heavier than facing it, and that realization did not come overnight. It came through moments they could not explain. There was a time when they believed distance would make everything easier. They thought if enough days passed, the memories would become softer. They thought new experiences would replace old emotions. They thought they could bury the connection beneath responsibilities.